Hello everyone. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. Yeah, okay. Hello everyone. I'll be right back. 1 second. Wonderful. Hello, good evening. Welcome to this live on Bridges of Light International. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Bridges of Light. So thank you, Gaetano Vivo, for creating this platform. And thank you, Life. Today, we'll be talking about I'd say quite a very hot and deep topic, so to speak. And it's in response of a question that a member of the group asked. And the question is, how can I feel at one with those who kill and rape? Wow, not an easy answer, I'd say, although a very appropriate one, since this being a group where we share spiritual concepts. And as we all know, one of the primary concepts, or actually truth of spirituality, is that we are all one. We are all connected. We are all one organism. We are all in this universe together, and we are all part of each other. Okay. So of course, it's easy to feel at one and part of somebody else, and recognize that somebody else is a part of us, is at one with us, when that person or those people behave in ways we actually like. It's something quite different when somebody is violent towards somebody else, when somebody is killing or raping others. Okay, that's very challenging, and I'd say maybe even for some people impossible. Definitely if the violent act has been committed towards them, to them directly, or somebody they love or they know. But even if somebody has been violent towards somebody that we don't know, it's quite normal to get angry, to judge and to get upset, and not then, of course, not feel at one with the person that has been violent, that has committed the crime or the rape. Okay, now I would say that the fundamental question to ask ourselves, to which the answer is determining if we could ever be able to feel at one also with somebody that is killing and raping and doing this kind of behaviors, is to ask ourselves, how deep are we willing to go? In other words, how much are we willing to look beyond appearances, beyond the world of phenomenon, beyond the phenomenological world. Because, of course, we may be thinking that person that has been killing or raping someone, he is a nasty, evil, bad person, okay? Although from many experiments that have been done, all the results about the subjects says that, hello Chiara, great seeing you here. All the results, hello, says that human beings, and I'm talking about very young children, they are already naturally prone to be loving towards each other, to be supportive, and to be compassionate, okay? It has been shown that even kids of 1.5 to 3 years old, when they see that another human, another living being or another human being is not feeling good, when they feel a sense or they see that somebody is in distress, they instinctively go and offer help. They hug, or anyway, they want to help, okay? They're supportive of each other. So I think one of the fundamental to keep in mind is that each and every human being is innately good, okay? Okay. Now, but let's consider something else. When we grow up, after we're born, we learn many ways of behaving. We learn attitudes, and we learn also ways of being either gentle, kind towards each other, or aggressive. You see, there's a study that has been done, the psychologist called Bandura, and what they did, they showed different groups of children, a man that was dealing or playing with a doll, the Bobo doll was called, and to one group it was shown this man playing with the doll in a kind way. To another group, it was the man that was dealing with Bobo the doll was being aggressive, okay, towards the doll. After the kids have been watching the scene, this man behaving and doing things with the dolls, they were all allowed, hello Anna Maria, they were all allowed to go out in a big room and play with dolls similar to Bobos. Well, it was shown that the kids that they had been watching the man being aggressive towards the doll, they themselves then they were being aggressive towards each other and towards the dolls they were playing with, okay? So, and that's called, it's one way that we learn from each other, and that's called modeling. This is to say that some people, they are more violent, more inclined to express frustration and anger in an aggressive way. Again, I would say, but as always, it's only my opinion, I would say not because they are inherently nasty, inherently bad, but they do it because they have been maybe brought up in an environment where violence was the norm for them, where they were exposed to violence. Maybe, and I mean, say maybe, most probably, for example, going back to the person that commits a rape or kills somebody, or somebody that commits a terrorist act, most probably it is not a happy, serene person. Most probably it is someone that has been brought up in a very dysfunctional environment, maybe in a family where violent act were the norm, and inside the person that behaves in such a way is somebody that is in pain. Okay, it is definitely not somebody that, because doesn't know what to do, is committing a crime, right? Which makes me think of maybe one of the reason why in the States, in the United States, every now and then we hear of somebody that either in a school or in a shop or somewhere else shoots people, even just a random. Well, it doesn't really surprise me. You know why? Because we live in a society where violence, it's at the base of social interaction, especially if we look at movies. I mean, most of the American movies, they're all violent. And as a society, I sometimes wonder, why don't we really reflect and do something about the fact that even a 2, 3, 4, 5 years old kid, it's allowed to see cartoons where there's competition, where there's violence. In many cartoons or video games, there's a good guy and there's a bad guy. There's a winner and there's a loser. And the good guy has got guns. Lots of video games, they're about shooting and killing, okay? And at the same time, we have created a society where a young kid is not allowed to watch or see any nude scenes or maybe even sex. Yes, I mean sex, full-on sex. What's wrong with it? But that's not allowed. So we are at the message that our society is exposed to is that violence is great. Violence is good, so be competitive, be aggressive, be judgmental. And if you regard yourself as being the good guy, you could even shoot the bad guys, which to me, it's a contradiction in terms. Does it make sense? Because if you truly are in your heart a good guy, of course, I'm not saying that you wouldn't get upset or angry, but one thing is to get upset or angry, one thing is to harm physically somebody else. Does it make sense? So we say yes as a society, of course, generalizing, we say yes to violence and we say no to sex, which is the expression of the most powerful and intimate energy that we have. It's the driving force of everything. It's desire, it's passion, it's the expression of love. And we say no to that. So we create taboos. So, you know, there are some islands, I think they're called the Trobriand Island, something similar, where the societies there, by the way, they're matriarchal society, they're not patriarchal society like in our world. And the adolescents, they are allowed and encouraged to experience their sexuality freely. And you know what? There's no rape. They don't have any rapists there, and they don't have any pedophiles, and they don't have any sexual dysfunctions that we have in our society. So I just like us to ponder upon all this, but I see that somebody wrote something. I'd like to connect with you and what you wrote. Someone says, "Hi Luca, sure, it makes sense. As kids, they were probably exposed to violence." Yeah, I don't think that a child would get violent just because. No, I think he would have to. It's a learned way of expressing anger and frustration. Otherwise, you know what, I think the most neutral and natural way of expressing any emotion, any surplus of emotion that we want to get rid of, the most natural and the healthiest way is to cry, But you see, some people, some kids, they were not allowed to cry. They were told off if they were crying. So if we haven't learned to release pent-up energy inside naturally by crying, this energy wants to go out somehow. So because of maybe somebody's temperament and the way they were brought up, they may be prone to express this energy, this anger outside, like maybe throwing things or acting out towards other people. Some other people, because of their temperament, meaning their inherent way of being that they were born with, and or their education, the education they had, maybe they keep the frustration inside, they keep the anger inside, and the anger eats them up. I mean, maybe they develop a depressive personality. Maybe they become depressed, or maybe they develop some kind of medical condition, maybe even a cancer. We know now that some form of cancer, they are also being created by accumulated stress, by anger and all this energy that they haven't been expressed. And Chiara said, I understood one thing, Luca. Before we can forgive violent people, we must forgive ourselves. Yes. Yes. I agree. Very profound statement. Yes. Yes. Before we can forgive violent people, yes, we must forgive ourselves. Absolutely. And you remind me also of something else, and then I'll carry on from what you say, which is very appropriate. And it's clear that I say this because sometimes I get misunderstood, maybe because I don't state it clearly enough. If I am not saying, by the way, that we should or shouldn't feel the way we should. In other words, if someone behaves in a certain way and for whatever reason we get angry, okay, what is appropriate is to recognize that we are angry, okay? By all means, I'm not saying we should not or must not get angry. No, what I'm saying is, let's acknowledge what is in every way, shape, or form. Meaning, if somebody behaves in a way, let's say somebody kills somebody else or rapes somebody else, and we get angry, upset, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with what's phenomenologically happening. Okay, we get angry. Then, only then, when the anger, this emotion has been seen and felt and heard and has gone out of us, then and only then, we consider what I am inviting you to consider. Meaning, somebody does like a violent act, commits a violent act, and I am not saying by any way that I'm not saying we should justify him or her or them. No, we stop them, okay? We stop them. We use that emotional charge to stop them. Although then, we don't superficially stay at the judgment level. We don't, because there's no use of it, of being judgmental and creating more of a problem that's already been created. So where we are in a state of quietness again, my invitation is for us to consider that they are not happy people. They truly need help. Of course, this also I have to say, because sometimes I don't say it and people think, oh, you don't care about, let's say, the victims. No, of course, I'm the first one to say, let's feel compassionate and feel sorry for who received the violence. Although sometimes the person who most needed love and care and attention, otherwise he wouldn't have committed that crime, is the person that has committed the crime. Does it make sense? So that's all I'm saying. That, but then I'll get to why also it's determining. It's the determinant how we feel about what's happening if we don't want these things to happen anymore. Okay, but before we get into that, thank you, Chiara, for your remark. And yes, you're absolutely right. We can, if we are not able or willing to forgive ourselves, we are not able and willing to forgive others. Yes. Absolutely. Because if we haven't forgiven ourselves, we just can't do it. It means that whatever is that we could forgive in ourselves, we project it out. And since, because we are all one, and because there's a symmetry in the universe that it's just mind-blowing how perfect it is, whatever we see outside, it's in ourselves. So whatever we don't like about somebody else, let's say we think that somebody else really pushes our nerves because he or she is bossy or is nasty or whatever it is. It is simply, they're simply expressing a characteristic, a personal characteristic that we have as well. Because the truth is that all of us are capable, and we all are capable of, and we all have all personal characteristics. In other words, in each of us, I'll give you an example, there's a Maria Teresa of Calcutta. In each of us, there's like an Einstein. In each of us, there's like Donald Trump. In each of us, there's like a Margaret Thatcher. In each of us, in other words, in each of us, there's the potential of expressing generosity, compassion, cruelty, nastiness, stinginess. Do I make sense? Although when we, for whatever reason, and we don't do that because we are nasty, but just maybe unconsciously, or for whatever reason, maybe we were brought up in a family or in an environment where expressing or showing a trait that would have us to be judged as, let's say, selfish was not allowed. So we cover it up, and maybe we never even behave selfishly, but we don't think we're selfish. So we project that out so that we see what being selfish means, and we judge somebody being selfish, and we don't like them. But if we were able to look inside and see that we could be selfish, and maybe we have been selfish, when we do that, we integrate that part of us, we forgive ourselves for having that part of us in us, then the person that behaves in a selfish way doesn't push us our buttons anymore. I hope I was clear enough, but thank you, Chiara. Yes, that's how it works. Samra says, America is a big problem. There's no gun control. You can buy gun from a supermarket. Wow, even from a supermarket. Yeah. I mean, in a place where to get a weapon is so easy and accessible, and at the same time we have violence from the cartoons to the movies to whatever else that we see on television and on cinema, we have the ingredients for disaster, don't we? Anna Maria says, this is right, Luca. A lot of young people imitated what they see in the movie. And this happens, in my opinion, because the family left them in front of TV without control. This is very sad. Yes, very young kid, when they see this kind of movies, violent movies, And especially up to the age of, but even afterwards, but up to the age of 7 years old, apparently the mind of a kid, it's really not able of being critical. In other words, it's like a sponge. Everything that it sees, it learns, and it becomes almost like a dogma for the mind. It's like something real, because it hasn't got the ability of discerning or judging, saying, well, no, I don't think this is real or not, okay? But having said that, even if we don't express, even if we don't develop a critical or discerning ability, even some adults, they would just believe everything, and they're very easily susceptible and gullible about what they see. So yes, absolutely, Anna Maria, if these kids were not allowed to watch these kind of movies, maybe we wouldn't have all this violence happening. But you see, even at the subconscious level, whatever we see or we see on television or we read on papers, has got a very impact in the subconscious mind. I remember studying that they have done some experiments where, and they have really seen the trend statistically. They have noticed that whenever in a paper or on the news, they were saying that somebody had committed suicide, meaning somebody has taken his life off. To that point, up to a few weeks later, statistically, the amount of people that committed suicide was raising, which it had who conducted the study to conclude that whenever we see that something is happening, whenever we see that something can be done, not for everybody, of course, but the subconscious mind may do it, may be inclined to do it. Does it make sense? Which it would explain, this is my assumption, but also for like positive happenings. You see, people think that, let's say, they can only run as fast as the record that at the moment has been set. But as soon as somebody breaks the record, everybody else then goes from where they never could allow themselves to go to beyond it. And to me, that's almost then again, it's amazing. It's just like the mind works. Our potential as much more than what we believe they are. In either way, you see, there's no judgment. It's like in the field of doing things that we regard as negative or as positive, okay? So this is going back to the fact that if we wish for a peaceful world, I don't think that showing and promulgated violent movies and scenes would take us there. Do I make sense? So it's like the contradiction we are living is that we are still showing violence, but at the same time we condemn violence. We don't want violence to exist. So my message is that instead of being so angry and judgmental towards who, of course, committed something that really it's not pro-life, like killing somebody, what we could also do is to change the system and create a system where peace is more prominent and serenity and love is more prominent than violence. Otherwise, we are creating a system which is already contradicting what we want. And also, that makes me think that, by the way, when we get upset about something, it could be also because we know deep inside that we could have done something, but we haven't done it. In other words, our conscious, subconscious, superconscious knows that that person that has committed the crime has also committed a crime because we have a part to play in that. And I'll tell you what I mean. But pay attention to when you're angry with somebody else. I'll tell you this because it really, most of the time happens to me. When I'm angry at somebody else, if I look inside, for one reason or another, I am angry at myself. I say it again. But this because I'm generalizing. You would have to find out for yourself. But see if you can see that when you were angry with somebody else, you could have just have been angry to yourself. In other words, you can always bring it back to yourself somehow. Because what is outside is us projected out and vice versa. Okay? And I'd like us to consider that, because if we want to change the outside, most probably we would if we change the inside. But Samra says, for most of us, we were not allowed to express our emotions as kids. Our caregivers, parents, were emotionally unavailable for us. That's why we are unable to express our emotions. We have a lot of suppressed anger and frustration. Thank you, Samra, for reminding us of that. Yes, that could well be one of the reasons we have so much anger around, and we carry so much anger definitely. If we are not able, because we weren't allowed to express our emotions when we were kids, yes, these emotions, they keep being in ourselves. And yes, and in the long run, they create frustration. Yes, absolutely. And when we are frustrated over a period of time, then it comes a point where, has it ever happened to you that you're frustrated, and then poor that person that is that like the cherry on the cake, that says something or does something that really had us to blow up. And he's like, whoa. And maybe that person is like, whoa, what the heck? That's how it works, yes. Thank you, Violetta. And if we think about it, in fact, also when we talk to somebody, and maybe we say something that maybe we don't even pay attention to what it is, okay? Or we are even being joking about it. But that person really gets fired up. Well, it's not really what we have said to that person. That was literally, again, the cherry on the cake. That was just the trigger. But there was all this frustration, all this anger behind it that have them to explode, basically. We were just a valve, the trigger. Chiara says, from my experience, I understood that maybe I will not be able to understand certain behaviors, but I tried to forgive myself for not being able to defend myself. And the anger goes away. Wow, thank you. Let me read it again. From my experience, I understood that maybe I will not be able to understand certain behaviors, yes, but I tried to forgive myself for not being able to defend myself, and the anger goes away. Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Yes, because what you could do, in fact, if you and from what you write, is like you were in a situation where something has been done to you and you couldn't defend yourself. You weren't able to defend yourself. Thank you for sharing that, because in fact, you could generate and be angry at yourself for not being able to defend yourself, and you could, in a way, maybe very subtle but unconscious way, but very powerful way, you could be regarding yourself as being guilty. You could be accusing yourself, yes, condemning yourself for not being able to defend yourself. So, yes, it is very, very, very useful and very, very forgiving towards yourself, which ultimately actually is the only thing you or we could do, is to forgive ourselves. In fact, it's not even about forgiveness, because we could well choose not to, and why should we, to forgive what somebody else has done? Because we could really maybe regard whatever they have done as something that we are not willing to forgive. Absolutely. Although it's very organically and important that we forgive ourselves, because we live with ourselves. We don't live in the other person's mind and body and psyche and emotional life, but we live in our one. So yes, it's fundamental that we forgive ourselves. Thank you, Chiara. Someone says, we need to be emotionally available to reach others. That will really help release a lot of suppressed emotions. Yes. Can you explain a bit more of what do you mean by be emotionally available to each other? And while you write that, I tell you what I think you meant, what I think I understood. If we were more emotionally available, I would interpret it as being more open, more willing to share how we feel without being afraid of expressing our emotions. Boy, oh boy, that would be, I think that would be really be the ideal for us and for everybody around us. Can you imagine this? If all of us, and I think it could be done, but we would have to eliminate that the fear of being judged. We would have to eliminate the fear of being judged and judgment all alone. If we were not afraid of being judged, and if we were not judging others either, I personally think and feel we would live in a wonderful, wonderful world, because we would always be healthy, I think. Because, you know, even conventional medicine and science, it's now proving that most of our illnesses, they are energetically based, meaning it is trapped energy that hasn't been allowed to leave the system, and so it stays in the system and it creates problems and imbalances. But if we were able to express joy or anger or sorrow or whatever it is, our biological, emotional and psychological system would always go back into a state of balance. Does it make sense? In fact, one of the definition of emotions is that any emotion is the energy that brings the system, the body system into, it brings it out of balance. In fact, think about it. Every emotion has got an energy charge, and it's great. But afterwards, this energy charge has to leave the body. And so the body will go back to being in a balanced state. But we don't allow ourselves to be in a balanced state because we keep the emotions in for one reason or the other. Hello, Juicy. Samra says, what I mean by being emotionally available is that when we see a loved one upset, if we can handle, we could ask them if they wanted to talk about it. Wonderful. Thank you. Yes. So you're saying if we see somebody that is not feeling well, if we are upset, if we can handle, of course, we have to be able to handle it. Thank you for underlining that. But then we could ask them if they wanted to talk about it. Thank you for that. Yes, that would help others and us majorly. Yes. In fact, some people, they shut down, they hold things inside because they don't believe that other people care enough, because maybe other families or friends around them, they don't ask them, like you, Samra, suggest. They don't ask them, would you like to talk about it? What is the problem? So they keep it inside. Thank you. And then someone says, we don't want to listen to other people's woes while we want to go on and on about our own problems. We need to learn to be good listeners, giving others a certain level of comfort to open up to us. Of course, everybody isn't ready for it. Yes, not everybody is ready for it. Although, if, as you write, if we are willing and able, because we may be willing, but then it's almost like a skill. And the skill would be to be present, to be able to listen, truly listen, be present, and to create a space where the other person, if she or he wants, can open up. So if we are willing and able to do that, to be present, and we are not too taken and worried about our own problems, who knows, maybe the other person could open up. Although, if we are not able, definitely if you're not willing, that's out of discussion. But anyway, if you're not willing and or able to be there for others, to listen, most probably, even if they would want to, they would probably feel it some way or the other, and they would shut down and they wouldn't open up. So we would miss the opportunity to listen to them and to help them out. Anna Maria says, maybe sometimes the people are angry or sad or violent because none listened them or gave attentions to their feelings and the reaction in the violent. My opinion as well. I totally agree, Anna Maria. This is exactly what I meant when I started, saying that we may superficially assume that the person that kills or rapes does it because it's a nasty person, okay? But if we really knew their situation, we would most probably find out, yes, that they are angry and sad. And most probably because, yes, they were not given any attention where they grew up. Nobody listened to them. Nobody cared about them. And of course, so they have accumulated so much frustrations, so much anger, then that the only way they have, the only strategy to survive in this world is to behave in such a manner. Do you know, for example, some kids, that they have been brought up in family where they were not listened to, they were not looked at, they were not seen, one of the strategy that they may acquire to be seen, it could actually be of being violent. They would maybe break something to be seen. They would take drugs, again, to be seen. So, of course, I'm overgeneralizing, but sometimes people that they kill, they rape, or they steal, behind those behaviors, there's a cry for help. There's their entity, all really wants is saying to the world, guys, I'm here. Look at me. Nobody has ever seen me. Nobody has ever loved me. So the only way that I know of to have you to look at me and pay attention to me is for me to do something that you have to give your attention to, either you want it or not. You see? So looked in this perspective, we could, I'm not saying that we would justify that what they have done. No. We would stop them. We would do whatever we can not to allow them to do it again. And then we would know that they need help. We would know that there is something that we could give them that they haven't had before in their life. And maybe if we do give them the attention and the love that they never had, maybe they wouldn't feel the need anymore of doing something so tragic. I truly believe that. This is all I'm saying. And I want to say it again, because people sometimes think that I justify people that they do certain things, but I'm not. I'm just saying that the reason why they do what they do, and I'm not saying that what they do it's something that we shouldn't stop them from doing, but they have there's a reason why, and it's not because they're nasty. Okay. Samra says, we feel obliged to offer solutions, but sometimes all the other person needs, thank you, Samra, is to talk, no solution. Samra, this is very, 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 I feel, very, very true and appropriate. You're right. And especially when somebody's in distress, there's no help in us telling them you should be doing this or that. The first thing is empathy. Empathy first, always. And by empathy, I mean, just like you say, listen. Give them the space to be heard, to be seen. Somebody violent, most probably, is somebody that has never been seen, has never been heard. So thank you, Samra. That's the most important thing to do. They're not asking for a solution. The world is full of people that they give solution. And there's nothing wrong with it, because also to give solutions, it's our way of saying, I love you. I don't want you to suffer, so I give you the solution. Okay, that's fine. But for some people might want the solution. They might look for you for the solution. But many people, and especially people with so much anger, and they're violent, and also because probably they were brought up in places where they were told what to do, but they were not listened to, that what they need is to be seen. And it's space. And it's our presence, which is for them is a present in himself, because they feel at one with somebody else, which they most probably they've never felt. I truly believe that, in fact, if somebody kills somebody else, I doubt that he or she has ever really felt seen and heard and at one with somebody else. Otherwise, of course, my assumption, I don't know, but otherwise I doubt they would go as far and really killing somebody else. Thank you, Samra. Josie says, sometimes it is difficult to show our emotions, especially if there are people on the other side who are stingy with them. Yes, I agree. Yes, it depends who we are relating with, who we are with. Yes, and if it's somebody that is maybe shut down, as you say, like your term, stingy with their emotions, like they keep them for themselves, they don't express them. Yes, we may unconsciously synchronize, so to speak, with them, and so we shut we shut our emotions, we keep our emotions in for us as well. You're right. But when we notice that, if we are aware of it, what we could do is actually, without overwhelming them, maybe I want to say, because if somebody it's reserved, and if we are over expressive sometimes, we may even have them to shut down even more. Although it doesn't help them or us to shut down like them. So to be able to not overwhelm them, but to express and to show our emotion, it may help them and allow them and give them the opportunity to do like we do, to express their emotions a bit more. Because then again, it is about, again, mirroring and modeling. Have you ever noticed that how sometimes according to who we are with, we adjust? You really have to keep an eye about noticing these kind of things. But I know that, for example, with some people, I am more comfortable, like I say, if somebody really expressive, I'm more comfortable of expressing how I feel without thinking about it too much. With very reserved people, if I do it, then I see that their reaction is, it's a bit distressed. And so I calibrate the way I behave like them. But we all are, let's say, synchronize, so to speak, with other people. Thank you, Giusy, for sharing that. Hello, Graziella. Anna Maria says, you're right, Ruka. They say, look at me. Oh yeah, the people, I think so. I see it, I interpret it as being also a way of being seen, yes, committing something really violent. Graziella says, I'm discovering in the last month that a lot of problems I have are linked to when I was around 1 year old. Thanks to Bridges of Light, I am a bit more able now to analyze. I had a lot of love when I was a child, but when I was 1 year old, my brother became very sick and it was contagious. So I had to stay with my granny. Therefore, now I suffer and I feel easily abandoned, even if I was never abandoned. Whoa, thank you for sharing that, Graziella. You see, this is the living proof of how determining and important very, very early experiences in life are. You were not even one. At the age of 1, you felt left aside and abandoned. And that has repercussion on it even now. Yes, that's how we learn. That's how important those first years are for us. The way we experienced life emotionally stays with us, really, almost for all our life. Of course, we can work on it, definitely. Yes. But thank you for sharing that. Yes. Juicy says, my brothers, for example, I love them a lot. I would like to hug them, to say them I love you, but they are closed in themselves. I know they love me too. Thank you, Juicy, for sharing that. Juicy, I'm wondering, have you ever tell them that you love them openly? And if not, why not? You do what you want. But because I really believe that it's always the right time to tell somebody we haven't told them we love them yet, that we love them. And especially if it's our immediate family. So in other words, even if you've done it, and if you've never done it, I would suggest, invite you to, now when I finish this live, you pick up the phone, you phone one one-to-one your brothers and you say, literally, you say, hey, your name, I literally just want to tell you that I love you. Because I've never told you before and I want to tell you, and it's the truth. And yes, can I tell you this, Josie? You feel ashamed, but you know what? These are what I call the psychic walls. These are the psychic cages. If you are willing and able to do it, and you see that there's nothing happens to you, actually, and if you do it, please, Josie, can you then send me a private message on Messenger and say how you felt? Because whenever I did or I do something like that, and whenever I have people, and this is what I call the act of liber action with a capital A, because they liberate us, they free us from the psychic cages. People experience who they truly are. Then they feel a joy that they hadn't felt before. This is how we overcome what I call the psychic cages: prejudgment and judgment, prejudice and judgment. But we have to be the first to take down these psychic walls. I don't know if I explain myself, but I would say do it. I know it's fearful, I know. But if you wait for the right time to do something like that, it may never come. And this is for everybody out there. Do you know what? We know what is the first thing that you would think if somebody close to you, like your brother, your father, your mother, your son, or your friend died? The first thing you would think is, shit, I never told them I love them. And I truly believe that the right thing to do anything, if it's a positive thing, is now. Literally. The soul doesn't know time and space. It's now. If you love someone, let them know now. Then, of course, do what you want. But why not? Anyway, Graziella says, thank you for the bottom. You're welcome. Thank you. Josie say, I will do that and I will give you my feedback. Thank you so much, Josie. I'm really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Please do it and let me know. Thank you. And Graziella says, Josie, I have the same problem, but I always tell them and I can see a brilliant light in my brother's eyes. Try, Luca, is very right. Graziella, the same problem, but I always tell them. You tell them, okay, yeah, you see? Yes, I tell them, I'd say do it. I've done it, and I can assure you it's a wonderful thing to do. Because it's one thing to say, I'm ashamed, I know we love each other. They know we love them. We love them, and we know they love us. Although it's great when we can actually verbalize the feeling and be open about it and tell them, I love you. So, thank you. Anna Maria says, I'm in the same Josie situation. I have 4 brothers. 3 of them don't talk with me. I love them, of course, but for me, it's impossible to say I love you in face. But in my heart, yes. And this depends on my parents. They never told us I love you. Anna Maria, you as well. Seriously. Now, tell them. Tell them. But I suggest if you can, don't write it. Not in a letter, not in a text message. Face to face or voice. But live is best. Literally, you know what? I just wanted to let you know that I love you. That's all. That's all you need to say. And see what happens. And seriously, if you do it, please let me know on Messenger how it went. Yes. Wow, thank you so much. It's been a beautiful, beautiful hour that we spent together. And yes, I have to let you know as well that I'm taking a break. I won't be doing live for a while. We may be seeing each other in October because I've got other commitments and a big exam to study and prepare for. But we are seeing each other on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Italian time, when I will be with interviewing Christine King, the head of the Metaphysical Society for the Expansion of Consciousness. And yes, and on Sunday afternoon, well, in Italian, I'll be doing the intervention with Chiara Saltanamacchia, and Maria Caterina Praticò. Anyway, ciao everybody. I love you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you. Ciao.